If you still own these figurines from the 70s, they could now be worth a vast amount of money.
Before we continue with the rest of the video, we could use your help. Click that like button to help spread the word about watchJojo, and also be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss our future videos.
If you have a Precious Moments figurine in a box in the attic, you might want to get it out and dust it off. Indeed, it turns out that some of these cute figures are worth a bit more today than you might think. But what is Precious Moments, and why have the figures become so valuable? The tale begins on New Year's Day, 1939, when Precious Moments creator Samuel John Butcher entered the world. Born in Jackson, a city in Michigan, renowned as the place in which the Republican Party first met, he was the middle child of 5, and it seems his family didn't have 2 cents to rub together in his youth. Not too long after his birth, Butcher's family settled in Redding, in rural California. There he spent a lot of time on art, hiding under the table in the dining room, sketching and drawing. However, he couldn't hide his ability, as it soon became apparent to everyone around him. But times were tough, so it was difficult for his folks to find the money for drawing pads. That didn't deter Butcher, though, as he put his thinking cap on to find a way to equip himself. Consequently, he discovered found paper that a local factory had discarded in a tip. Besides the art, belief in God proved to be important to Butcher, and as a consequence, he became convinced that he should dedicate his drawing ability solely to the Lord. And those skills were real, leading him to a place at art college after he graduated high school. Indeed, Butcher won himself a scholarship to study at the College of Arts and Crafts, but that meant moving away from home to Berkeley. While there, though, he was to meet the future Mrs. Butcher, and after college he set out in his vocation, sharing gospel stories through pictures, and he made ends meet working as a janitor. Eventually, Butcher took up a position at the Child Evangelism Fellowship in Grand Rapids, Michigan, in what became the start of a 10-year commitment. Elsewhere, he began working in shipping, but he would finally achieve his break as an artist when the fellowship gave him a place in its art department. At some point, Butcher started to draw distinctive pictures of cute kids with teardrop eyes. He named these Precious Moments and gave them to friends and family as presents. And those same drawings found another use as he revisited the use of art to spread Christianity, this time on a popular kids' TV show. At the fellowship, Butcher encountered Bill Beal, who would become both a friend and business partner. They set up Jonathan and David, which featured his Precious Moments creations on posters and cards. And in 1975, an invitation to a Christian booksellers convention in Anaheim, California, would change their lives. Indeed, at the event, the pair would have their own booth to show off what they could do. Indeed, Butcher and Beal's wares had caught the eye, and retailers flocked to their booth, trying to get their names down to carry the friends' products. And eventually, other vendors had to help them take orders as they became swamped by eager booksellers. That great start didn't mean they had it made, though, and they still had to take on other work to keep food on the family table. It's probably fair to say that Butcher and Beal weren't the most accomplished businessmen, and when Beal had the idea of embodying the Precious Moment idea in porcelain bisque, they both realized that they had neither the nous nor the money that they would need to make the concept real. However, in 1978, they would meet the people who had both. Enesco Corporation offered to turn a piece of Butcher's art into a figurine. He'd drawn the piece Love One Another upon glimpsing his daughter Tammy having a chat with an uncle. And it's fair to say that the outcome delighted Butcher, because apparently he wept with joy after seeing the sample. And he was not alone in loving it. The piece is still being produced. Meanwhile, another daughter, Debbie, provided the inspiration for a further piece, God Loveth a Cheerful Giver, which has proved incredibly popular. Indeed, she used every cent she could get to adopt pets from the local vets and then rehome them when she was younger. And perhaps the enduring popularity of the figurine pays testament to Butcher's ability to capture Debbie's spirit. Meanwhile, the figures captured people's imagination, and by the end of 1978, 21 had been produced, later to be known as the Original 21. And they met a welcome that floored Butcher. People wrote emotional letters to let him know that his pieces had resonated with them, and before long their popularity had soared. And a glance at Precious Moments figurines explains their appeal. The trademark teardrop eyes are the center of faces that look like angels, and each tableau portrays its own tale, making them interesting ornaments. It's been suggested that they'd be ideal for a nursery, something that perhaps a newborn might keep when it grows. From those beginnings, the Precious Moments collection grew into more than 2,500 figurines, and people all around the world started to collect them, forming clubs with others who pursued the hobby. The official club had 500,000 members at its peak, and even today tens of thousands of people are still part of it. Butcher did not just stick to drawings and figurines, though. That's because in 1989 he opened an attraction in Carthage, Missouri, called Precious Moments Park. Since then, about 400,000 people have visited the park each year, drawn by its centerpiece, a stunning chapel that took the Vatican City's Sistine Chapel as an inspiration. Yes, Butcher aimed big for his creation, which he designed himself. The chapel features thousands of feet of murals showing Bible stories from both Testaments and a celebration of inspiring children whose lives were cut short. Meanwhile, visitors enjoy beautiful windows of stained glass fashioned in hundreds of colors. Unsurprisingly, the chapel provides the setting for hundreds of marriages a year, and this connection with weddings is not at all new. UNESCO boss Eugene Friedman told the Chicago Tribune in 1998 that Precious Moments, the Lord Bless and Keep You figurines, which represent a newlywed couple, had crowned more than 2 million wedding cakes. Indeed, at its height, Precious Moments was doing huge business, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. But there were to be bumps in the road. The figurines started to sell a little less well, and UNESCO stopped making them. And quite suddenly, Butcher's own company, Precious Moments Incorporated, PMI, which had focused on licensing, had to switch tracks. Within 3 months, PMI had to grow the capacity to replace UNESCO. That meant very quickly becoming a manufacturer and shipper of products, and on top of that, creating the infrastructure to support the design and production of Precious Moments figurines. And this was not to be the only hurdle for PMI, because in 2008 it faced legal action from country singer Shannon Clemens. She claimed that the company had taken her idea for a line of Christian characters and provided no credit for it. However, it all turned out for the good for PMI as Clemens' lawsuit proved unsuccessful. However, these issues, it seems, were only minor distractions. Indeed, the company still delivers up to 40 new statuettes 4 times a year, according to its official website. This means the Precious Moments collection does grow, and as we noted, there are thousands of them. But on the other hand, its growth is slowed because some figurines are no longer made. And when PMI ceases to make a figurine, it sometimes literally breaks the mold. Other times, the company might suspend a particular model, stopping its production for an unknown amount of time. But both these processes have the interesting outcome of providing some figurines with scarcity, increasing their value to Precious Moments collectors. So it's probably not too surprising that a busy marketplace exists on the internet, where people snap up Precious Moments pieces, and the prices can easily run in the hundreds of dollars. In one case, a figurine that you could buy back in the day for $15 might be worth 4 figures now. Yes, that statuette is one that we noted was one of the original 21. The figure called God Loveth a Cheerful Giver and released in 1979 is no longer made today, so it can only be bought secondhand. And although it usually sells in the low hundreds, you might just hit the jackpot with one. Indeed, Paul Burton, speaking for Wolvie Fine Antiques and Collectibles, told Today in 2017 that he'd seen valuations placed on it in excess of $2,000. Burton was, however, slightly skeptical that one would fetch that. He said, "I don't believe I've seen one actually sell for more than half that, although they are still occasionally listed for sale in that price range." However, to get the big bucks, your figurine will need to be in tip-top condition. The statuette's fabrication from porcelain bisque leaves them prone to chipping or cracking, and even a tiny chip might cost you 3/4 of the value of the piece. Meanwhile, anything bigger and nearly all the gains will be lost. Luckily, a dirty figurine is easier to fix than a clipped one. Burton told Today that a thorough cleaning would be a necessary improvement. You can dust with a makeup brush and give it a wash with mild soap, so long as you don't get water into the statuette. It's a tricky job if the piece is delicate, but well worthwhile. The rewards for well-preserved, intricate pieces could well be greater. Also, it may help to have the original packaging, and Wolvie suggests that up to 1/5 of the value of a well-kept statuette might reside in its box. Indeed, one figurine still in the packet was shipped for $409 online and was part of a limited edition of 1,500 copies of Make a Joyful Noise. Meanwhile, Precious Moments limited editions generally come in short runs, usually no more than 3,000. And Collectors Club editions also float around the market. These were only available for a year in the first place. So if you were once a member of the club, check the model number of your figurines. Those starting with PM or C are special and might be a bit more valuable than most. And if you were a member of the Collectors Club, perhaps you had a figurine signed. Well, that may also boost its value to an online collector. The most in-demand scrawl is that of Sam Butcher, but you can also lure a collector with the scribbles of Eugene Friedman, former boss of Enesco, or Yasushi Fujioka-san, who made sculptures from Butcher's art. Indeed, it turns out that the small editions can result in very valuable sculptures. One Disney special issue, which only saw 1,500 pieces made, went for $1,500 on eBay in February 2019. Collaborations between Precious Moments and Disney are common, and as you might imagine, they can prove attractive to collectors. However, that's not the only joint effort Precious Moments has been involved in. In 2012, it helped create a memorial to a teen from Shelby, Missouri, who had passed in 2010. Christy Maubach had lost her life in a car crash, but she'd not been forgotten by her friends and community. The Precious Moments team didn't need to be asked twice. As sales director Patsy Larson pointed out to the Herald Whig in 2012, she said, "Each figure has a title, almost a story behind it, and this fell right into that. In this case, the title was I Believe, which appeared in the creed of the South Shelby FFA, an organization Maubach had loved. Consequently, the figurine caught the eye of collectors. Made in both boy and girl versions, it was only available through one store in Shelbina. Amazingly, owner Jo Kampschmidt found herself inundated with orders from across the U.S. and Canada. Indeed, in 30 years of selling Precious Moments, she'd never needed more than 100 at a time. But this time she'd had to order more than 1,000 of each type of the memorial figure. And this is not the only Precious Moments figurines to have been involved in remembering someone's life after they've passed. In 2013, Missouri man John Stouffer gave Mom Shirley's collection to the Breast Cancer Foundation of the Ozarks. She'd received a breast cancer diagnosis in 1992 and died of heart problems in 2007. Indeed, it was a particularly generous donation. Shirley's 25 years of collecting had seen her amass a gathering of at least 2,000 figurines. And amazingly, the lot could be worth at least $100,000. John told the Joplin Globe in 2013, "They're going to a good cause. She'd be pleased that they're going to help somebody." In fact, collections of Precious Moments figurines can be quite valuable. In 2007, a big batch went on eBay for $5,000. So it may well be worth digging around in those boxes to find those old, nearly forgotten sculptures. Indeed, it may be a profitable exercise, even if you don't own a $1,000 statuette. And if you do sell a dusty Precious Moments figure for a cool grand, and you're wondering what to do with the proceeds, we may have a solution for you. Yes, you could spend the whole $1,000 on a new sculpture. Only 1,000 copies of The Power of Your Love Astounds Me will be available. And while one would cost you $949.99, who knows what it might be worth in a couple decades.